real estate is a very meaningful category for the average Indian consumer, right? There is obviously the rising middle income consumer profile. There's a lot of new age formal money that has come into the hands of young people who will think about their first purchase, right?
It's a massive decision for you as an individual, and the experience is completely underwhelming. This experience, we believe, also existed and still exists in used cars, and that is the reason why we had invested in Spinny in their earliest days, and we believe that a Spinny for homes is something that is the need of the hour.
What should a young millennial expect or a young Gen Z expect as a superior rental experience, and who do you think can build that in India?
Vacation homes overall is becoming a fairly important category, and it's manifesting today itself in a few different ways. A lot of people also think about vacation home as a great asset class just from an investment purpose, right? These are typically in upcoming areas. Everybody is talking about how Goa will only keep going up, so everybody wants a piece of that pie. But you can't put like 2 crores, 3 crores, 4 crores up front, right? So how do you make access possible?
You must have started. I'm just practicing. We have started? Okay. As ready as I can be. Hello and welcome to SummitUp. No, it's okay. I was just practicing. Hello. Hi. ठीक है. Cool है. Hi and welcome to SummitUp. Hi, I'm Vishy and I lead marketing at Renovation. Over the course of this series, I will speak with various folks in the sector practices at Renovation and try and uncover the opportunities and themes that deeply excite us in the Indian startup ecosystem. In today's episode, we look at the immense potential for disruption in the Proptech sector in India. Renovation has been fortunate to partner with Proptech, defining companies like PropTiger, Strata, and No Broker. Real estate is a unique asset class. It is one of the oldest, one of the largest, a close indicator of economic vitality, and usually a deeply emotional decision for most people participating in the category. And yet, I think most would agree that it is a category that is broken, where user journeys and buyer experiences are invariably poor, and the room for disruption is massive. Today, I speak with Amit and Manish from our consumer tech team on the immense potential for disruption in the PropTech space. Hi, Amit and Manish. Welcome to SummitUp.
Great.
Let me tee this off. It's been a conundrum for me, which is real estate is such a big part of the overall economy. I think in India, real estate makes up almost 7% of our GDP. And yet, if you look at startup activity in the real estate or in the PropTech space, I don't think it makes up more than 1 to 2% of overall startups in the country in the past decade would have been in this space. What makes this space so difficult for technology to disrupt?
Yeah. So I think we have the same conundrum as well, by the way, as investors. And I think it's one of those things where you can either see the absence of something is either a gap or an opportunity. I think as investors, we like to think the way to-be founders think, which is you look at everything as an opportunity, right? So you tend to be more optimistic when we see this delta between 7% of economy to significantly being underrepresented in the economy, right? But stepping back, I think there are two things, what we think about when we think about real estate and the Indian context. I feel one, just stepping back, why real estate is a very meaningful category for the average Indian consumer, right? Probably true globally as well, but definitely in the Indian context. I think one, like you said, it's a meaningful contributor for GDP. Consequently, for a lot of people, it will be the single biggest economic decision they will probably make in their lifetime, right? To just get to their primary home. So that's one. So it is a very important, very material decision in those sense. Two, I think culturally, it has been linked to aspects around stability, family, security, all of those. And I think some of those things are very deeply ingrained and fairly hard-rooted, especially in the Indian context for a lot of us. And I think three, it's a very emotional process, right? Like how all of it manifests, it's a very emotional process, right? You're putting a significant amount of money on the table. You want an experience to boot. Today, even when you buy a simple product from a D2C brand, you have such a nice experience. You get a nice handwritten note from the founder sometimes. It like puts a smile on your face. I don't think something like that happens in real estate, right? So a lot of us crave for that, or it almost seems like this disconnect of saying like, what is wrong? Like, why am I not being treated commensurate to the kind of money I'm putting.
Where is the delight?
Yeah, where's the delight? I'm putting so much money. I'm so nervous. I'm so scared. Like something seems off, right? So I think that's why it matters, right? Like that's why it's important. That's why it matters. Now to your question, I feel like it's not like innovation has not happened in this space. I feel you're right that disruption truly hasn't happened in this space. Actually, our view is I think the past decade has been very formative for the Indian real estate industry, and a lot of those enablers and foundational elements are now in place. Whether you look at all the way from government initiatives like RERA to clean up the sector, to actually all that work they've done to take out, truant developers from the ecosystem, to actually cleaning up the bank's balance sheets to make sure credit is easy and available to consumers. I think a lot of work has happened there. When you look at the consumer profile, there is obviously the rising middle income consumer profile. There's a lot of new age formal money that has come into the hands of young people who will think about their first purchase, right? So again, that sits at a contra to what has traditionally been prevalent in the sector, which is a lot of cash, a lot of black money. I think those things will slowly get out of at least a part of the sector where professionals want to play, right? And that itself is a meaningful part of the puzzle. And three, in general, whenever we talk about, like we were joking, like this classic Indian consumer, right? The new age consumer wants something different, wants something better. So there is that crescendo of ask from the consumer side, right? And when it reaches the peak, innovators will jump in and disruption will happen. We've seen that in any space. So at least my reflection on that is, I think disruption has not happened. Innovation has definitely happened. A lot of it has been foundational, and that is why we're so excited. I think we are excited to see this gap from 1% to 7% sort of bridging and even exceeding it over the next 5-10 years.
So disruption is around the corner.
Yeah, it's around the corner.
Super. Manish, if we were to talk about disruption led by technology in the home buying experience, how do you think technology can really improve the home buying experience and make it significantly better than what it is currently?
Oh, absolutely. So I think one of the deepest thesis that we have within the Proptech space is around home purchase in itself, right? And when we talk about home purchase, we are referring to the secondary home market or the resale home market. And there again, this market contributes to around 90% of the overall transaction value that is being created today. Yet, when a consumer today goes to purchase a resale home, the experience is completely broken and fragmented, right? You do not know whether the seller is genuine. You do not know whether the documents that they have are genuine. You have to run around from bank to bank to get a loan. At the same time, when you go visit these homes, in many cases, they have tenants living in. So it's very difficult for you to imagine what it would look like if it were bare. Even if it's an empty home, today it is completely unstaged. There is at times garbage lying around inside homes. There is at times leakages inside homes. And this entire experience ends up being very underwhelming for one of the largest purchases and decisions in your life, which you will end up taking a massive loan for, which you will end up living in and paying off in the next decade, right? So it's a massive decision for you as an individual, and the experience is completely underwhelming. This experience we believed also existed and still exists in used cars, and that is the reason why we had invested in Spinny in their earliest days. And there we've now, as Spinny has grown up and organized this space, seen the power of an intermediary in terms of bridging that trust and improving consumer experience. And we believe that a Spinny for homes is something that is the need of the hour. And fundamentally, if you think about this experience, right, what could it look like if there exists a Spinny for homes, right? You would not go from broker to get the transaction through. You would have staged, clean homes that you visit that help you understand and make a better decision. The moment you decide to buy, you know that you are entering into a trustworthy party, so that transaction completely happens seamlessly, right? You know that there is a bank at the other end, or there is an intermediary at the other end who will help you sort out the bank loan and move into the home as soon as possible. And that we believe can be enabled through a tech-led intermediary, right? and this intermediary, by virtue of actually adding in value in different parts of the equation, will capture a lot of the transaction value that sits in between and actually can create a large meaningful outcome, which has been one of the biggest challenges with the classified platforms that exist today.
Very interesting. Spinny for homes. I can't wait for something of that sort to come up.
Me too.
But I think moving on, I think if there is a bigger problem than home buying, it is what comes after it, which is, the construction or the renovation and everything to do with getting the house ready for you to live in. And that seems pretty broken in a country where anybody who buys a house is running from pillar to post and trying to figure out the vendors, trying to ensure that it gets done on time, the right sort of things are used, etc. Do we see an opportunity in this space, and how do we see a young budding entrepreneur meaningfully sort of tap into this opportunity?
Yeah, and just to tee that off, I think in one of the other episodes I spoke of how we recently moved into a new house, and so we're looking for purchases and so on. I think this came before the moving in happened, right? And again, speaking as a consumer, it is probably the single worst. Renovating a house, and I had significant renovation done in my house before we moved in. It is probably the single worst consumer experience I've ever had in my life. And at least that sent me back on this thing of reinforcing my view that something is deeply broken. I think a lot of us tend to discount it as one-off, we got unlucky, etc., etc. But in that journey, ended up speaking to tens of people who've gone through that experience, because it's one of those moments of exasperation. You call people and say, look, is it just me, or is it really this bad? And people who got their homes renovated or constructed 15 years ago to like a year ago had the exact same consistent thing they narrated to me. So for me, it was very surprising, like right down to the exact issue I will face at what point of that journey they could tell me from 15 years ago, and I was still facing the same issue at the same point. So while the consumer inside me was deeply frustrated, at the verge, my wife and I were at the verge of giving up, the investor inside me felt something was really wrong here. Like, how could somebody who went through this journey 15 years ago, my neighbors, tell me exactly what will happen, what will go wrong 2 weeks down the line, and the exact thing happened, right? So as an investor, I was left wondering, this is probably the most broken thing I've ever seen, because very rarely now, at the pace at which innovation is happening in our country, we are redefining consumer experiences every 2, 3, 5 years, right? And now I'm saying 15 years ago, the exact same experience. So that's just the anecdote around like how bad the experience really is. I feel the answer, like with many things in India, my realization through this journey, and that has been sort of increasingly as we did more work as a team, has been our thesis as well. I think how this problem has traditionally been solved in this country is, again, we have classifieds for this. So you can go to anything from a service, many services marketplaces we have, right from Just Dial and so on, to like Google business listings, to even a house which has some form of an India avatar to do vendor discovery. I think the realization that we've had across these journeys is that purely discovery-oriented marketplaces don't fix it in India, right? And that has been the journey that many people have had, right? All the car players discovered this before Spinny came along. All the home services players discovered this before Urban Company came along. And I feel like the answer lies somewhere there, right? So as you think about getting deeper into a home journey, today we have a live space, we have a home lane, but they're very focused on interiors and beyond journey of a house. I feel where the problem really lies, or where the problem is unaddressed today, is when it comes to civil, and on the other extreme is like constructing a new house, right? But as soon as you start getting into the civil work territory, the problem starts manifesting itself. The answer will probably need to be a mix of many things, is our evolving thesis. I think the answer will need to be a mix of a strongly managed marketplace, will therefore need talent to be trained, upskilled, and somebody will need to build out new supply, or at least retool and retrain the supply that is available in this. And finally, all of this needs to, tech will enable the layer of project management, consumer experience, to how this entire thing comes together. So I think when you bring all of this together, at least our thesis is that this is the space where we should likely see the next urban company. So in a way, your urban company for renovation and home construction is, again, probably, somewhere on the cards, and that would probably get consumers that experience that they deeply desire and care for today.
Super. So a Spinny for buying and an urban company for then doing it up. Excellent. Moving on, Manish, if increasingly to the youngsters I speak to nowadays, it almost seems like either they don't consider they don't consider buying at all as an option, because they either see renting as financially more, wise, or they just, are at the stage in their life where they can't afford to buy, right? And having said that, given the fact that a majority of Indians nowadays, especially youngsters, are renting out, it seems like the rental experience is also equally broken for a different set of reasons. Yeah. What should a young millennial expect, or a young Gen Z expect as a superior rental experience, and who do you think can build that in India?
Yeah, no, very well said. I think the problem is not just for millennials, but even for folks who are middle-aged, right, who are living out of rental homes. And this market, even today, in spite of multiple attempts to organize, continues to be driven through brokers, right? And all said and done, it is a very broken experience. So why is it broken, right? And where is it going today? So a lot of folks that I speak to today, and this I've experienced personally as well, is that when they go out, rent a home today, the first question that a landlord asks you is share your LinkedIn profile, share your resume, and someday they'll.
Only in Bangalore.
No, it's become uniform across now. And if you double click a bit into that problem, right, what that means is that landlords today are unsure whether the person renting the apartment will pay in full and on time. And this problem is only increasing with the number of people moving towards rental as a preferred option versus purchasing homes. Second problem today is for most working professionals who are moving to a new city, joining a job. For them, searching an apartment is an impossible task. Often they have to move around different parts of the town. They have to conform to the availability of landlords and of brokers. Only then they'll be able to see that flat, right? And that today itself is a very harrowing experience, and you end up living out of a hotel for a month, and even then end up with a home where you are unsure whether it will convert or not. Now let's flip the problem towards homeowners, right? So as I said, homeowners are today unsure about whether the candidate or the person who's going to take the tenant is going to pay on time or in full. Homeowners are also unsure whether they will be able to rent out the flat as soon as possible, because today they give keys to a single broker, and the single broker has only so much network of demand that person can generate. We believe that this friction on both sides of the marketplace actually lends itself for the emergence of an intermediary that can actually standardize this transaction. So for example, so if you look at Latin America as a market, there's a company called Quinto Andar, which we recently deep dived into. And their model is that they actually partner with homeowners and enable them to rent out homes as soon as possible. And at the same time, they take the risk of payments being paid in time and in full. And at the same time, underwrite the end borrowers. For this service, they end up charging 8 to 10% of the transaction fee. And now if you think about a homeowner, let's say, who is staying in Mumbai but has an apartment in Gurgaon, for that person today, broker is the only person that person trusts, right? And even then that broker only plays a role in the initial part of the transaction. After that, the broker doesn't exist. If such an intermediary comes in into the transaction, helps this person find out new tenants, and then takes responsibility of timely payments, I think this person's life is solved. And suddenly real estate, which is a hard physical asset, which is difficult to rent, you have to collect the rents, you have to deposit those PDCs if you've collected them upfront. It is a hassle to actually invest in real estate today, right? You'd rather put in money in equities or in stocks. But that asset today becomes seamless for you. It becomes equivalent to a fixed income security that you've purchased, right? Because your payments are guaranteed and you are able to lease it out as soon as possible. And we believe such an intermediary could be created in India. This would require a market shift where today owners do not pay anything to an intermediary on an ongoing basis. But if you think about it, the value add is so deep that there definitely exists a market where such an intermediary could capture value both on homeowners as well as the tenant side.
Interesting. I noticed that you termed the tenant as candidate, and
Yeah.
as a long-time tenant, I can deeply identify with
yeah.
that. I get what you say. Amit, coming to you, I think a very interesting part of our thesis in this space that we've spoken about is the emergence of this asset class around vacation homes. And that's something that deeply intrigues me. Can you expand on it a little bit?
Yeah. I think there are 2-3 ways, right? But I think the fundamental tailwind we've observed, and maybe COVID has had a step change impact here, but we're seeing it play out, is vacation homes overall is becoming a fairly important category. And it's manifesting today itself. It's manifesting itself in a few different ways. One, a lot of millennials and Gen Z are saying, look, our primary residence is something where we're comfortable renting out. That gives us mobility of jobs, freedom, and so we don't want to be tied down to a particular area, city, etc. Having said that, they're okay sometimes leapfrogging that journey and thinking about actually a vacation home as the first home purchase they'll do. So in a way, it's very interesting, right? Like, because vacation homes were classically or second, third homes once everything else is done. We are actually seeing evidence of that shortchanging itself, right? I think it's also driven by the fact that a lot of workplaces now have much more flexibility. You can definitely work remotely, at least for some durations of time and so on. So all of this helps, for a lot of younger people to actually think about vacation homes as a meaningful category. The other side of this is, or for people who own vacation homes, suddenly the opportunity to rent them out, to put them on Airbnb, to actually make sure they are meaningful contributors and actually generate yield for you, consequently is playing out, right? So for homeowners classically who would think of vacation home as a second, third home also, suddenly it's become a much more attractive asset class, right? Because utilization is going up and economic value is being unlocked there, right? So that's the second trend that's playing out. And so I think few of these tailwinds got us to thinking a little bit deeply around saying, look, what is happening in this category and how do we, go deeper? And I feel like, the way we thought of real estate, vacation homes, almost the entire gamut or the entire spectrum of things comes to play then, right? So I would say right down from discovery of vacation homes, if you are buying, that's broken today, right? Today there are a lot of considerations. The nuance of vacation homes is a lot of these locations are generally cash heavy, right? And so for a lot of people, it just narrows the set. So how do you get transparency? How do you get visibility into what's available, inventory availability, real time, talking to a buyer? So discovery if you're buying is broken. Discovery if you're renting out either on vacation or long-term lease, again, a lot of aspects of that is also broken. So, we spoke about both iBuying and we spoke about the rental experience. I think it's almost a subset of the larger real estate opportunity, but all of those things are broken once again, right? However, the stack to solve them will be very different, right? Because you are in a very different location with a very different property dynamic. So I don't think it's very easy to extend the same stack, right? Like in the rental opportunity, we spoke about tenants who would live in a mainstream city. So maybe once you're in for a longer period of time, right? But the vacation home rental behavior is going to be very different and so on. Then if you look at the home as an asset itself, I think there's a lot of opportunities we see on sort of full stack management of that. So right down from property management, right? You're a homeowner, you want to list it on Airbnb, but you don't want the headache of managing people, day-to-day cleaning, all of that. Could I take this entire task away from you? I get a take rate to do all of this sort of managed, rental from the homeowner side, right? I do complete property management, servicing, all of that. Like that could be an opportunity in itself. I think there are other opportunities which we feel are very powerful when it comes to vacation home as an asset class, which is around fractional ownership, right? And that's because this asset class has two very unique characteristics. One, when you are buying in this asset class, you know you will not utilize this fully, right? So if something can help you solve for share of time and you only pay commensurate to the share of time of usage of this asset, that could help. Two, a lot of people also think about vacation home as a great asset class just from an investment purpose, right? These are typically in upcoming areas. Everybody is talking about how Goa will only keep going up, so everybody wants a piece of that pie. But you can't put like 2 crores, 3 crores, 4 crores up front, right? So how do you make access possible? So another very unique opportunity that we think about in this asset class is around creating opportunities for fractional ownership. We have a portfolio company, Strata, which does it for commercial assets. I think we also think about this opportunity in the residential space, and what does that mean? So fractional ownership, either for living purposes or for vacationing purposes, or just as an investment, what could that look like, and what will that lead to? I think those are some of the things we think about when we think about vacation homes as a larger asset class.
Super. Outstanding. Thank you so much, Amit and Manish. If I have to sum up, it seems like wherever you look at in the real estate and property space in India, there is plenty of room for disruption. And for anyone who is ambitious and is looking to build something big and meaningful in a sector that is so close to people, I don't think you can go wrong in this segment. If you're a builder thinking deeply about the space and want to engage with us as a team, please reach out. We also have put out some content on our website around this space. Do read up, and if you want to chat with us on some of the spaces that we talk about over there, or any other ideas you have as you're building in this space, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to engage with you. Thank you.